The girl in the back is 15-year-old Norma Countryman. She's surrounded by her loving family. But look carefully. She's the only person who appears nervous, and her left eye is swollen. A few days before this photo was taken, Norma was tied to a tree with ropes around her hands, feet, and mouth, and left for dead. 2 months earlier, and only 30 minutes from where Norma lives, 14-year-old Diane Gilchrist leaves her house to go to school and is never seen again. 2 days later, 19-year-old Gloria Knudsen goes missing. Her skeletal remains are later found near Lake Lagamas. July 11, 1974, just 2 weeks before Norma's photo was taken, Krista K. Blake is last seen getting in a blue Ford van, the same blue van that would later lead to Norma's nightmare.
Considered one of the worst serial killers to ever prey on women.
They don't have evidence linking him to all of the suspected murders.
As months pass, more young girls continue to vanish, with no arrests being made, until, against all odds, 15-year-old Norma Countryman survived Washington State's most notorious serial killer.
There are so many other people that matter. I'm here for them.
In the quiet town of Ridgefield, Washington, 15-year-old Norma Countryman lives with her mom, stepfather, and siblings. May 29, 1974, only a 20-minute drive from where Norma lives, 14-year-old Diane Gilchrist disappears on her way to school. Investigators follow every possible lead to try and find the missing girl, but to no avail. After months of investigations, the case grows cold. July 17, 1974, 3 months after the disappearance of Diane, Norma has just finished 8th grade and is excited to be on summer vacation. She lives with her family in a more secluded part of town, so she can't get around much without a car or a long walk. Around 4 p.m., Norma wants to go to the store and see some friends.
I guess I was having a bad day, maybe bickering with my sister, but my stepdad was heading into town, and I said, "Can I go with you?"
He agrees to drive her all the way to the main street, and Norma gets dropped off at the town's convenience store. She talks with friends, and after finishing purchasing some items, begins to walk home. She does this walk all the time. There's plenty of daylight, and normally no reason to worry.
I walked up the main street and out of town, and I saw this van come out of town, and he did that whole double take, brake check thing, and I thought to myself then, I should just get up and walk away, just go home. I didn't do it. Fateful decision, but I didn't do it.
A blue 1974 Ford van drives beside her, quickly pulls forward, and then slams on the brakes. She hears a man's voice calling out, trying to get her attention.
He was asking questions. "Do you want to go for a ride?" was the first one. "Well, no, thank you. I don't go for rides."
But the man is persistent. He asks for cigarettes, marijuana, and keeps pestering her with questions, anything to get her from walking away. The teen has an uneasy feeling of danger, but at the same time, she's getting tired of the walk home, and in a split second, Norma decides to accept the ride. As soon as she gets into the car, she instantly regrets it.
Stupid. Get into the van with a stranger when you're not supposed to, and that's what I did.
They drive down the road in the direction of Norma's house, when all of a sudden, he makes the wrong turn. She tells him he has made a mistake and to turn around, but he doesn't listen.
He pulled off the road into like this little meadow with bushes on both sides and got out of the van. Then he came in the door behind me and he put a knife to my throat. And that's when the disbelief started.
He tells her to take off her clothes, saying he'd kill her if she refuses. She follows his demands, trying not to upset him. He takes off her bra and uses it to bind and gag her. She is bound to the back of the van and lies helpless. The man gets back in the driver's seat, starts the vehicle's engine, and drives off.
I can't tell you how long we drove around. All I know was I was terrified, and I knew that bad things were going to happen to me.
He continues to drive until the sun goes down. The man turns off into a remote road, far away from any of the main highways. He goes deeper into a dense, wooded forest. To a person unfamiliar with the area, they could have easily gotten lost, but this man seemed to know exactly where he was going. Suddenly, he brings the vehicle to a stop and unlocks the door.
And then he got out, came into the back through the side door, carried me out of the van, carried me into the wood.
She knows not to yell or scream because the man threatens her with a knife. He forcefully leads her deeper and deeper into the forest. He stops in front of a large tree. At this moment, the man pulls out several ropes. Norma is in shock, begging him to let her free. She doesn't know if anyone is looking for her or if she will ever see her family again. but the man ignores her and begins to bind her to the tree.
He looped a rope around my head and tied it to the tree, and then he looped another rope under my knees and tied it to another tree.
All of a sudden, the man becomes angry, punches her across the face, and forces himself on 15-year-old Norma.
He hit me so hard, I swear to God, I saw stars. It went on all night long.
After hours, he finally stops. It's now around 4 a.m. in the middle of the night. She is still tied between the two trees, ropes around her mouth, hands, and feet, unable to yell or move. Norma is exhausted, but she doesn't want to close her eyes, afraid of what might happen, of what the man might do to her next, as he just stands there silently. The teenager looks up at the stars above her, looking for any hope in sight. At that moment, against all odds, he starts to walk away, slowly. Norma sees him going further and further into the forest, back the way they came. This is the first time she's alone. She doesn't know if he is coming right back to kill her or if he left her there to die, but either way, time is running out. When she finally can't hear his footsteps anymore, she knows this moment might be her only chance to escape. However, she's still completely restrained and struggles to move as the ropes are tightly wrapped around her. But suddenly, an idea. The rope around her mouth might be possible to chew off, and if she can free her neck from the tree, then she could hop away. Norma starts to gnaw at the rope, trying to break it down as quickly and quietly as possible, fearful he might return any minute. And then finally, after biting down with all her strength, the rope around her neck breaks.
When my head fell free, I got on my knees and I picked up the rope that was connecting me to that tree. And when it broke, I got up on my feet and I hopped away. I hopped right out this way to the path, and I looked back the way he brought me, and I went this way.
Norma, with her hands and feet still tied, struggles to move in the opposite direction from where she came. Going deeper into the forest, Norma knows that if the man doesn't find her, she could have a chance at survival. The sun is almost rising, and the young girl, with her legs and hands still bound tightly, keeps going until she reaches the edge of the woods. She sees a large open field surrounded by a barbed wire fence.
Big field, and cows, no houses, nothing around at all. I heard noise in the wood behind me, sounding like somebody was looking for something but trying to be quiet.
Norma stands still, not moving a muscle. The sound from the forest grows louder. Someone is approaching her. She doesn't move. Suddenly, the noise stops.
I bet I stood there for 2 hours after the sound stopped and didn't move, just waiting, scared to death. He was waiting to hear me move. I stood up the whole night, trying to get the rope off my wrist.
But unfortunately, the ropes are bound too tightly, and she can't free her hands, but she needs to keep going, no matter what.
I decided I needed to move and get out of there, so I went underneath that barbed wire fence, and I hopped about 3 steps, and I fell. My feet got tangled up in the bushes, and I just stayed. I didn't have the strength to get up.
The young girl falls unconscious. She hasn't had any sleep, food, or water, and is badly wounded. If she doesn't get medical attention soon, she is likely not to make it out alive. Another hour goes by, and Norma is still asleep, until miraculously, she wakes up and summons the little strength she has left to push forward. She untangles her legs out of the bushes and hops through the field. She sees a large building in the distance.
Made my way down here to this door, and I tried to open it. Door was locked, couldn't get it open. There was a clock on that wall right there. The clock said 10 minutes to 7.
She is alone and now too weak to stand. Her knees buckle, and Norma falls on the steps of the building.
I just sat down on the step, and I didn't sit there very long, just a few minutes. And I heard a vehicle coming up the drive out of sight, and I wanted to just get up and run.
The headlights shine on her face. The vehicle gets closer and closer. Norma worries that he has finally found her. The vehicle stops right in front of her, and the engine is turned off. The door opens. A man steps out and walks toward Norma. It is still too dark for her to see him. She can't tell if it's the same man. She struggles to get up. Her whole body is weak and can't move. Knowing she has done absolutely everything she possibly can, she surrenders.
And I think at that moment I gave up. I just thought, if it's him, it's him. There's nothing I can do. I can't do anything else. And I just started crying. And I sat forward and showed him my wrist.
And that's when the man takes out a knife and cuts off the rope. Norma looks up in shock. It is not the man who abducted her, but instead, a park ranger.
He just came up and with this look of puzzlement on his face, like, what the heck?
The park ranger realizes that something terrible has happened and calls the police. When they arrive at the crime scene, Norma tells them all the details she can remember and bravely recounts her whole ordeal. She knows they need to act quickly because the attacker is still on the loose. As news makes its way through the community, one thought comes up. If Norma escaped, what happened to Diane Gilchrist, the other young girl who went missing 3 months earlier? In fact, after police listened to Norma's story, they realized that this attacker might be responsible for the disappearances and unsolved cases of over 5 young girls in the area. As everyone breathes a sigh of relief for the safe return of Norma Countryman, there is no happy ending. One person who can't forget about all the missing girls is Norma herself. She struggles with the idea that she made it out alive, but other victims are still out there, and the attacker is free. She is fearful that he will kidnap another girl, so she works with the police and gives them all the information possible. The teenager remembers the exact kind of vehicle she was abducted in. Police bring photographs of multiple possible suspects to Norma, but she does not recognize any of them. Without much else to go on, she feels helpless that she can't provide more information to investigators, and her case grows cold. But when things feel like they couldn't get any worse, 18-year-old Carol Valenzuela goes missing in the area. 1 month later, Martha Morrison, 17 years old, also disappears. As months pass, more young women continue to vanish, all the cases eerily similar to one another, with no arrests being made. Norma starts to blame herself for not being able to stop them, and starts to isolate herself, falling into destructive behaviors. But everything changes on October 1st, 1974, when a young girl is found on the side of the highway. She is completely naked, bleeding from her chest, but she's still alive. She is quickly driven to a nearby hospital for emergency medical attention, and there, they identify her as Daria Whiteman, a 20-year-old who was reported missing that same day. Daria says she's been kidnapped by a man driving a blue Ford van. That's when investigators link her case to Norma's. They realize that the locations of both attacks were all within the same forest, managed by Washington State. Only a person very familiar with the area could know how to navigate it, leading them to believe that the perpetrator might be an employee of the Parks Department. They do a reference of every employee with the blue Ford van, and now investigators have their first real lead: 25-year-old park employee Warren Forrest. He was absent from work the same day as Daria's attack, reportedly on sick leave, and happens to own the exact same vehicle described by both girls. They obtain a picture of him, and Norma identifies him as the man who kidnapped her. Police obtain a search warrant for his home and vehicle and drive to his house. Inside, they find fragments of clothes with blood on it. Police can now arrest him on charges of kidnapping, rape, and attempted murder. It's January 1975, 3 months after his arrest. The trial of Warren Forrest begins, but without sufficient evidence connecting him to many unsolved cases, it is difficult to charge him for all of his suspected crimes.
Been suspected in maybe 4 more, and that you may have been involved in many as 16 or 18 unsolved cases down there.
The 16 or 18 comes as a surprise.
Warren successfully defends himself by saying he's not guilty by reason of insanity and is therefore acquitted for Daria's attack, being instead committed to the Western State Hospital.
Why did you feel entitled to murder them?
It wasn't a matter of murdering them, it was a matter of they were an object that could fulfill my sexual desires. But I didn't see them as having feelings or emotions.
You were just totally detached in terms of their own humanity.
Pretty much so.
However, after further investigation, on July 16, 1976, the remains of Krista K. Blake are found, a hitchhiker who had disappeared 2 years prior. Detectives are then able to link the case to Warren, due to witnesses identifying, once again, the blue Ford van she was last seen getting into. With new pieces of evidence against him, Norma is called to the witness stand for a second trial against Warren, in front of a new judge and jury. Norma, now approaching adulthood, describes in detail her entire ordeal. Everyone is shocked by her story.
There are some emotional moments in that courtroom today. Norma Countryman, she says she survived being kidnapped and attacked by Warren Forrest.
Because of her incredible memory and courage, on April 26, 1979, Warren is now found guilty for the murder of Krista and is sentenced to life in prison.
It was such a weight off my shoulders, such a weight off of my soul.
Throughout the years, Warren routinely becomes up for parole and has the possibility of being free. But Norma, without hesitation, speaks on behalf of those who cannot.
just keeping him in jail. Just keeping him in jail. I knew that every time there was a parole hearing that I would be involved in some way, whether it was writing a letter or making a phone call or showing up.
Despite being a suspect for at least 7 other cases, they all lack evidence for now, and so he's only officially charged for 1 murder. However, Norma makes it her life mission to ensure he never gets out of prison. She knows she needs to be there for all the other suspected victims, those who cannot speak out and don't have a voice. She will not stop fighting, not stop showing up.
So many of those young girls, their parents died without knowing what happened to their daughters. I don't care about anything else. I just want answers for those families that don't know what happened to their loved ones.
After he was convicted and after he went away, I couldn't keep doing the destructive behavior I was doing. I said, I have to be okay. I have to move on. I had to get myself together.
Now, Norma is married to a loving husband and became a mother of 2 children. She lives a happy life, spending time with her family and enjoying new hobbies like knitting hats.
I got married to a good man. I raised 2 children, good kids.
40 years after her abduction, Norma even reconnected with the park ranger who found her on the steps back in 1974.
I've been thankful for you for 40 years.
Thank
You betcha.
you.
You betcha.
Thank you.
Glad I came that morning.
I'm glad we do too.
Yeah.
Norma doesn't let herself be defined by her ordeal. Instead, she sees her story as a tool to help others, a way to give hope. She will always be a voice for those who cannot speak for themselves.
For all the people that I wasn't aware of when we went through the trial, for all the people that I wasn't aware of when I sat in that van with him, for all the people that didn't know, I'm here for them.
This picture hides the most disturbing secret. It was taken in Guyana on November 18, 1978. 5 people were shot dead, including a woman named Patricia Parks. During the attack, her daughter Tracy went missing in the forest, along with 4 other kids.